Welcome to Pure Michigan Pour. I'm Dan Burrows. Today we're at the wonderful Grand Traverse Distillery, one of our favorite stops. Today we're here with Claire. Claire's going to give us a little backstory of Grand Traverse, and we'll be doing a tour. We'll be going over some other stuff too. So go ahead, Claire, introduce yourself.
Yeah, I'm Claire. I'm the marketing director here at Grand Traverse Distillery. We are celebrating 20 years this year, so we got started back in 2005. Family owned and operated still, which is fun. And, you know, if you're going to be in a family business, one with alcohol is always a plus.
That's amazing.
Yeah. But yeah, we like to keep it small around here. You know, Kent, the owner, his intention when we first started back in the day was, you know, to really bring spirits and bring agriculture that's used in Michigan and start making spirits out of them. He's of Polish ancestry, so the first product that we ever put out was our rye vodka, which we call the True North vodka. We get all of the grains locally from the Grand Traverse region here, and he really wanted to highlight that. So that was the first product we started, kind of going back to his heritage and also celebrating Michigan agriculture and being able to make spirits with that. So that's kind of always been what we've run off of. That's what we want to promote. We try to keep everything as local as possible. We are a small batch craft distillery through and through. We don't have a large operation here, but we are mighty with what we have.
You guys put out a lot more than I thought you did.
Yes, we do a lot of limited edition whiskeys, especially. We're also well known for our flavored vodkas too. Our cherry vodka is definitely our number one seller. Cherry whiskey as well. We do the cocoa bean vodka. Man, that if you like an espresso martini, it's super good. Super, super good. So yeah, we've got, at all times, we've got a number of different limited whiskeys, but we have our standard products as well. We also do gins, we do rums, number of vodkas. So we kind of do it all here. We have a lot of different products that we like to, play with. And again, 20 years, we've really mastered the craft of especially some of the rye products, which any distiller will know rye can get messy and sloppy. So we've gotten it down to a science where it's...
Say that. We just learned that about Michigan distilleries and ryes.
Yes, yeah. They are gelatinous. It's an interesting, it's an interesting consistency that you can get out of it. But yeah, we've been doing it for a while now, and we continue to plan on doing what we're doing and specializing in whiskeys and different, flavored vodkas and kind of the one-offs too. We do a lot of, we'll do different rums and different gins too. We've done in the past a maple finish gin, which, is definitely a good one. It's a great one. So we like to play around. We like to experiment. Our distillers have fun here. We have fun with it. It's always a good day in the office when we get to try different barrels and, different samples of stuff. So.
And I know every time I've been out here, it's just been an amazing time every time.
Yeah.
There's always something new.
Yeah. I mean, we're definitely a working distillery around here. We're not, it's not prim, proper, perfect, but man, we do hustle around here and there's always something new going on. You never know what you're going to walk into when you walk into the office. If we have, different bottles out for tastings or, new products that we're trying to play around with, or, maybe we found a barrel in the back that we forgot about and it's, 10, 12 years old. We're pulling it out.
That's always a fun day.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, we have a little over 1,000 barrels in here right now, but, sometimes some of them get lost in the sauce and,
right.
We find them later and that's always a fun day.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, man. So that's a little history. We're going to do a distillery tour here coming up, and we'll show you everything, and then we're definitely going to show you the tasting room.
All right, welcome to our distillery here. As you can see, we are a very functional distillery. Always got something going on around here. This is where we distill everything that we make. So we have, again, our vodkas, gins, whiskeys, and rums. All of them get distilled in a little bit of a different way, just depending on, again, what we're putting in a barrel. If we've got botanicals that we're adding in, of course, if we're doing rum, it's a little bit of a different distillation process than if we're doing something grain-based. But most of what we do around here is a grain-based. So again, we get a lot of our grains in from the Grand Traverse region, if not from Michigan itself. So we'll get all of the grains in. The first step we do is milling down all of those grains. So we need to process them down to a grist so that they're small enough to be able to go into our fermentation tanks, to add water in there to start the fermentation process. So that's the next step that we do. Again, we have different reactor tanks and different fermenter tanks over here, and where we kind of start from point A and go all the way over to, I guess, point E. before we go into the stills there. So if you didn't know, spirits start out the same way that beer is made, very similar process. We got to start out with building up that alcohol content in there from the grains itself and turning that starch into sugar, which is the main first step in there. And then once we get it up to a certain alcohol percentage, that's when we can take all of that liquid and put it into our two different stills here. So both of our stills are German stills from Arnold Holstein. One of them holds 2,400 liters, and the original one that we have out front here is 1,200 liters. So again, not massive stills, but they get the job done for sure. And definitely with this smaller still here, really what we're looking for is all of those columns and all of those windows there. That's where you get a really good yield, I guess not a yield, but get a really good concentration of the alcohol, and that's what we want. So we start off, when you put it into the still, there are three different steps in the distillation process where you get heads, hearts, and tails. Heads is a super alcoholic, very, very high alcohol that you want to get rid of. Then you get right in the middle there is the hearts. We pull the hearts and we pull a very strict amount from there. So again, it's a smaller yield than what you would normally get if you kind of upped the heads or tails, but it's how you get the cleanest and the best product. And then you have the tails, and that's kind of the sloppy end mess that you get with all of those grains once they've kind of the leftover sediment that remains in there, and that all gets strained out at the very end there. Our still here has 38 plates, and we run through, especially all of our vodkas, need to run through 3 times in order to be considered a vodka. However, the more plates that you have and the more that you condense down everything, it each counts as one distillation. So you're condensing more and more as it travels up, and you're getting a better quality spirit the longer and the higher it rises and the more that you run it through. So all of our vodkas are very well distilled. They're very clean in flavor. We also do only one filtration right at the very end. The more filtration that you do, the less flavor that you lose. So we like to have a lot of flavor in our vodkas. For our neutral vodkas, we'd have a wheat, a rye, and a potato. When you taste all 3 of them side by side, they very distinctly have different flavors. So our wheat is very sweet, very doughy. The rye has that earthy, peppery quality to it. And that potato has that like really starchy forward flavor in there. So it's a nice way where, you're getting a neutral vodka. You can put it in whatever drinks you like to. If you like mules, if you like martinis, if you like Cosmo, whatever you like your vodka in, you can tailor it based on the neutral spirit with our stuff, which is really nice. So typically what we recommend is, for example, in a Moscow Mule, because it's got that kind of gingery forward flavor in there, the True North Rye is really great for that because it has that peppery, earthy quality in there, and it complements the ginger flavor really well. However, if you're doing something sweeter, like maybe a Cosmo, or if you're doing a vodka sour, something with the wheat base would be a little bit better. It has a little bit more of a neutral, sweet, doughy flavor, complements a little bit of a sweeter, and you kind of pull through more acidity whenever you mix it into a drink there. So just an example of how we do our distillations and how we really care for each one of the spirits, especially our vodkas, and making sure they're distilled really, really well. Same thing with our gins. We add our botanicals in there. Our gin is very citrus forward, so it's got a lot of lemon and orange in there. You also get grains of paradise, angelica root, and coriander in there. So it's got a secondary really warm note. And then you finish with that juniper. It's a little bit lighter on the juniper than most other gins. However, it's a good start for people kind of getting back into gins, or anyone who hasn't had a good experience with gins. It's nice to be able to have something that's a little bit less piney, a little less like you're munching on pine needles. It's definitely lighter, very clean in the flavor. So again, it has a really nice soft finish on it, and it rounds out with all those citrus and warm notes in there. The rums too, we have 2 different rums. One's a silver reserve, one's a dark reserve. They both start out the same way. We import in the Caribbean molasses, which is one of the couple of products that we don't have in Michigan. However, sugarcane doesn't grow well up here, so we let that one pass. But again, very good quality Caribbean molasses what we use. Our rum is a little bit different from most other rums. In other rums, you get that kind of like sugary, sweeter flavor. In ours, you get a nice, soft, buttery, almost butterscotch on the nose, which is really nice. It barrel ages really well as well. The barrel aged rum.
It's a very good rum.
The barrel aged rum is one of my personal favorites. I love it. Our rums are fantastic. For being up in Michigan, we do a pretty decent rum. So
I will contest to that.
yeah. There's that. And then, we have a number of different whiskeys. Most of the mash bills are pretty similar. So we have a lot of different varieties. However, we keep the mash bills pretty simple across the board, whether we're working on a rye, a bourbon, or any of the malts. So our bourbon mash bill is a high rye formula. So it's 60% corn, 30 rye, 10 malted barley. A lot of times where we play around with the different products is in the barrel aging itself, because that's really where the magic is made, in our opinion. We can do different flavored barrels, different types of barrels, how many different barrels we do, if it's a Solera, if it's a double barrel. That's where we get creative with our whiskeys and really let the mash bill stay the same across the board for them. Same thing with the ryes. The rye is 100%, ryes are 100% rye. So you get a really nice peppery, earthy flavor in there. And again, that complemented with the caramel sweet notes that you get from the barrel makes a fantastic, very smooth, very clean flavor for our rye products. Our rye whiskeys are some of the most well awarded that we've gotten in the past. Whenever we send them off to awards, they always score very highly. Again, we've really gotten the rye distillation. We've gotten the rye distillation down to a good science, and going into the barrel as well. We've gotten very comfortable with working with rye whiskeys. So if anyone's a big rye fan, we've got fantastic ryes. We also have a couple of different malted products as well. That's kind of newer for us to introduce some an American single malt or an Irish pot stilled with the blend of malt and unmalted barley in there. So those are great too. A little bit of a different mash bill there, but newer territory for us, but we're hoping to kind of get more into the single malt or more into the malted barley scene with our whiskeys there. And I mean, we really start again with the grains. We mill them down ourselves. We import the farmers drop off the grains to us. We mill it ourselves. We mash, ferment, distill everything ourselves. Happens all in this room here. We bottle ourselves as well. So we, take whatever we have done distillation, we will hand bottle it, and it's a very rudimentary system. It's not anything automatic, anything fancy. It is an all hands on deck situation where we get 4 or 5 people, and each one's got their own little station, which I can show you over here if you'd like to, right off the still here. So you can see, again, it's a, small operation, but it's fun. And again, this is where we would take all of the grains here and mill them down, and then that feeds all the way up into R1 there. So you can kind of follow the process. We have it set up. You're good. You're good. Yeah. There you go. Yeah. Again, the flow is meant to set up to be, easy on your eyes. So whenever you take a tour in here, you can follow the flow of what we do, but it's also easier on our distillers and makes their life easier, when it's in a very flow by flow situation where you're coming all the way here, following all the way up to the fermenter tanks, and then you go right into the stills there. Happens all in a small space, not a lot of travel room there. And then we do our bottling all over on this other side here. So you can see whatever we pump out with distillation gets fed into that tank there. That'll feed through there. All right, well, welcome to our barrel house here. So at any given time in here, we have roughly about 1,000 barrels, more or less. Most of the barrels that we have in here are New American White Oak, just because we'll definitely need that for our bourbon and our Old George. Some of our most, popular whiskeys that we have. However, we have definitely different types of barrels in here, different sizes as well, which is super fun. So I can kind of take you a tour around our different barrels here. And you'll have to forgive me, our barrels move around quite a bit. They've got little legs and they like to get up and walk around. Just kidding, our distillers move them. But You'll see that some of the barrels are definitely in different conditions than one another. Every barrel is a little different, which is fun. A lot of them will be, leaking a lot more out of here, which it kind of creates this cool waxy effect on there. We also do wax some of them closed just to help seal them up, especially for our older ones where they need a little bit of extra help. Some of them you'll also see, you can tell which ones are, the previously used barrels. They'll be in a little bit more shabby conditions, but that just means there's more flavor in them. So like you can see these ones here definitely have a lot more on them. Typically the barrels that'll look most like this are the ones are maple barrels. Those tend to get pretty beat up by the time they come back to us, but they are full of flavor. So it is all worth it in the end.
One of our favorites.
Yes, yeah. Especially when we're aging our whiskey in a barrel that had previously barrel aged first bourbon, and then it goes and gets shipped off. You put maple syrup in there, age it in there for a while, then we get it back, and then we put a whiskey in there for 5 years. By that point, the barrels are hanging on for dear life, but they still got a lot of love to give in the end. So you can definitely tell, each barrel is in a different condition, which is super fun. You'll even get, some of the barrels we'll get from the same. We have a couple of different people where we source different types of barrels from. We'll get a batch of barrels that all came from, same type of wood, same delivery, same shipment of barrels. However, each barrel has its own unique quality, which is really fun. So we'll put the exact same product. We'll put a bourbon in there, and sometimes we get a little bit more of like a woody character in one of them. A lot of them will have that like sweeter note in there. You get a lot of caramelization. Some of them have more of that like spice, peppery. You get a little bit of smoky, and so it's really fun when you're tasting all of the barrels and when you kind of come together and you have to blend multiple barrels together in order to make a batch for a run to put out into our tasting rooms or out into distribution. We have to decide on the flavor profile by mixing all of these different flavors together and all these different barrels together, which is a fun process. So try to keep it consistent across the board, especially for our regulars like our bourbon and our Old George, but especially when we're playing around with some of the other ones, it's really fun to be able to, blend different characters and different notes together in order to make a really superb whiskey. So most of the barrel sizes that you can see are 53 gallons, the standard here. You'll also notice with us, we tend to mostly have our barrels standing up, and we have the bungs on top of the barrels. One, it helps with we're able to get way more space out of them. So you can see along this wall here, how many barrels we can put on a pallet and how many we can kind of stack high versus the barrels that are even just stacked on the regular barrel racks over here. Granted, these are double the size. These are 106 gallons here, but you get less space and less use out of them when you have them tipped on the side there. So we tend to just forsake space because we've got about 2,500 square feet in here, something like that, maybe 3,000 square feet. It's not super big, but we really try to, put as much in here as possible and, space it all out so we can move them around. But, we're working with a limited space in here, so we try to get our most bang for a buck. Every barrel is an investment, so the more that we can put in here, the more we can get out of it, which is great. So again, mostly white oak in here, different, stages. Some of them are double barreled. Some of them we have in a Solera system. And so where we start out in, our white oak, and then we move to a French oak and then finish in a cognac barrel. We have a couple of Amburana barrels that we use for our Amburana bourbon. Those barrels right now are off with the brewery and they're barrel aging beer in there. And then we're going to get those barrels back at some point. So they're not currently with us, but we will be getting it back soon. So a lot of the times we'll do that with our barrels as well. We have good relationships with breweries around town here. They like to barrel age their beer. Same thing with wineries too. They'll take a lot of our used barrels and age their wine in there. And, we have a good relationship across the board. So, it's fun to get those barrels back in the end after they're done with them. And it's fun to see what they do with our barrels, that had previously barrel, maybe like a rum or a bourbon or a rye or whatever they want to use with them. So yeah, this is our barrel house. If you could smell it, it smells gorgeous in here at all times. It's
so good.
Really, it's really something. When you need to just take a minute to take it all in, it's nice to come over here, take a deep breath, and remind yourself what it's all about. But yeah, we've got, you know, a lot of different types of barrels, a lot of different types of whiskeys, and we keep them all, you know, we rearrange and organize, all different ages too. I mean, some of them we've got a little bit on the younger side. If we're doing like our bourbon or our Old George, those are 4 years age because they're bottled in bond. However, we've got barrels up to, we do a lot of 10 years. We've got a 12-year coming out soon. You know, we have barrels at all different ages. And sometimes it just is based on, you know, the supply. We'll go a couple years where we don't have we have like a particular whiskey that doesn't sell as much. And, you know, we've got a new whiskey that we push out and those kind of, you know, take the lead. So it allows for some of these other, what may have been 4, 5, 6 years aged, it allows these barrels to kind of age up a little bit more, and they only get better over time, which is great. So we've definitely got some older whiskeys coming up here that we're super excited about that aren't typically aged as long as they are, but we've just, you know, had the space to keep them around, and we just keep seeing what they taste like, and they only get better with years. So we're excited about that too. But yeah, this is our barrel house.
Oh, so amazing here. All right, let's head over to the tasting room and see some of these spirits we've been talking about.
Yeah.
All right, we're here in the tasting room now. We're going to be going over some of their spirits, and we'll be showcasing whatever Claire wants to share.
We've got a lot of products, as you can see back here. I think right now, man, how many whiskeys have we got to feature? I think 11 or 12, and we've got 6 vodkas, 2 gins, 2 rums. Again, a little bit of everything here. So I'll just pull some things that we can talk about. So we'll start with this one here. Talked about it earlier. This is the True North Rye Vodka, first product that we ever started with. Again, this is a rye-based vodka. For anyone who knows vodka, comparable to Belvedere is also a rye-based. Again, ours is very rye forward. You get a lot of that neutral, that grain flavor in there, even though it is a neutral vodka, but makes it very nice in a Moscow Mule. It's great in a dirty martini if you like dirty martinis. But yeah, we like to show this one just because this is the very first thing that we started with before we ventured into what is now our most popular, the famous cherry vodka. And if you've seen us in stores, you've probably seen this product, our cherry vodka. Definitely very popular. Back in the day when we first started distilling and making a cherry vodka, you know, we wanted to bring obviously a Traverse City spirit since we are in Traverse City here. But it used to be rye based, and we've now switched over to a wheat based because again, that more neutral wheat, sweet, doughy flavor lends better to the cherry flavoring that we put in there. So, I mean, if you like vodka lemonades, cherry vodka lemonade, fantastic. If you go to our tasting rooms in downtown Traverse City and Frankenmuth, we have a lemonade slushy machine. Throw some of this in there. In the summertime, you are set. It's a good one. So it's pretty versatile for being a flavored vodka. Got a lot of flavor there. It's also, we've got a little bit of cocoa bean in there just to round it out on the finish. So kind of starts up front with the cherry flavor. You get a little amaretto in the middle, finishes with that cocoa flavor. It's great. You know, it's for everyone. You know, what you may think about flavored vodkas, everyone enjoys it, especially out on a bright sunny day in the patio, on the boat, at the beach, camping. Yeah, it's fantastic. So it's a great one. Got a lot of great flavored vodkas here. Talk about one more, since everyone is on the espresso martini craze now. You gotta have an espresso martini, and this cocoa bean vodka in that is super, super good. So we use dark cocoa nibs as the flavoring for it, which is where you get that color in there. It's that kind of dusting kind of lies off in there. Add a little bit of orange and a little bit of cold brew in there as well. So you've got a really nice, that almost like rich baker's chocolate flavor. So we don't add any sugar to any of our products really, besides whatever is in the cherry flavoring is really the only sugar that gets added. So on its own, it has that, you know, dark baker's chocolate flavor. Once you start adding a little sugar to it, it richens up. And again, anything with like a coffee, so espresso martini, white Russian, it's fantastic in that. Even with just a little bit of cream soda too, really, really good that way. Kind of tastes like a Tootsie Roll, but easy 2-ingredient drink if you don't want to get too fussy with a white Russian or an espresso martini. Chocolate martini, I mean, It's again, it's a great one, and it's nice to have a flavored vodka that doesn't have, it's not like a liqueur. It doesn't have a lot of sugar in it. The more sugar that you start putting whatever it's in the bottle, really hard to mix and play around with it afterwards. And I prefer having it, where you can kind of amp up the sugar a little bit. You can play around with it a lot in cocktails, so that's always fun. Talk about, well, I'll bring up our two gins here. So we've got the Peninsula Gin, which is our standard gin. Again, more citrus forward, really nice, light, refreshing. Then we have the barrel finished gin here. This one is lightly aged for about 9 months, which is where you get that beautiful kind of amber golden color in there. So it's not, to the point of a whiskey where it's that dark color, but just enough to put a little bit of flavor in there. Great cross between a gin and a whiskey because you get those nice oaky, rich flavors in there, but you have those really clean citrus forward notes in there as well. So me personally, I like this just in place of it because I really like an oaky flavor, but anything with like a Tom Collins and a gin and tonic, it pairs really well. So it's a good one.
They're so good. I mean, being new to the gin market.
They're great, yeah. And if you are getting back into gins, highly recommend starting with not only a good quality, but one that has a little less juniper in there. That tends to be a good baby step into, getting back into it, because not everyone is going to be a fan of all spirits. I will fully admit I'm not a tequila girl. I don't know if I'll ever get back into it. So I understand when people come in and they're like, nope, don't like gin. You can't convince me. But for those who are looking to get back into it and they're looking for a good product, this is a great one to start with. Let's see, not in here, nothing else. Okay, yeah, we've got our two rums here. Definitely a difference in color there. So you can see we've got the silver rum here, which is just Caribbean molasses, no aging on it. Dark Reserve here, aged for about 2 years. So a little bit lighter on the aging than what we do normally for our whiskeys. However, we like having that butterscotch, that buttery, sugary note coming forward. That complementing with a little bit of that oaky flavor makes it very smooth, very clean, very flavorful. This is good enough to just sip if you like it, neat or on the rocks. It's a great sipping rum to sit around with.
And I will say, we have this one on our set. One of my favorites. Yeah,
it's great. I think our rums, in my opinion, are underrated, but I also know, we're making rum in Michigan. Not exactly what you think of when you think of Michigan is rums. But if you're looking for some great rums to add to your collection, these are really fantastic. So nice buttery flavor to them. I'll go over some of our more popular whiskeys. Cherry whiskey, of course. Got to have a cherry whiskey in Traverse City. Lightly flavored on the cherry. It's not overly sweet or syrupy. You don't get that kind of Robitussin flavor that you can get often with cherry flavored stuff where it just gets medicinal really quick. We use a tart cherry concentrate, so it creates more of that kind of natural cherry flavor in there. If you like old fashions, it's great in an old fashioned. You get a little subtle cherry pop in there. Again, it's not going to, change the profile too much, which is nice. It still drinks very similarly to a regular old fashioned, but you just get a little hint of that cherry in there, which is nice. Again, versatile for being a flavored whiskey. That you can do a lot with it. Kentucky Mule, old fashioned, neat on the rocks in a soda. It pairs really well. You can do it. A lot of people just like having it, straight, which is great because they enjoy the flavor of it, but also very fun to play around with. We've got our bottled and bond bourbon here. So if you've known us for a while, you've probably noticed that our bottles have changed over the past 5, 6, 7 years. And even just this one within the past couple of years. It used to have an orange lettering on there, and it didn't highlight this bottled and bond portion, but that's definitely something that we're, proud of now, is that our Old George and our bourbon are all bottled and bond, 100 proof, aged for 4 years. For us being a smaller distillery, actually making a bottled and bond product is not all that difficult, it turns out. When you've got a small staff of distillers where you have to have one distiller, pretty easy for that
Yep.
one distiller to keep track of everything and pull it within the seasonality that needs to be pulled in. And we always did 4 years as a base anyway. It was only when we first started out that we started, playing with, 3 years. But you get the best flavor at 4 years. It's still got a lot of oak in there. That 100 proof, I mean, the less you dilute it, the more flavor you get. So
That's our sweet spot. We normally tend to be 100 to 113.
yeah. It is nice. I mean, a standard whiskey or bourbon, you'll find a lot of times it's just that 80, but you get more yield out of it that way. Totally get it. Ours, we've just decided that, it's easier for us to set the standard at 100. The flavor is better, the standard is better, and again, easier for us. And we'd prefer to put out a product where you definitely get, more of that pop and flavor, especially when we're, filtering less than anyone else. And I guess I shouldn't say anyone else, but filtering less than what's normal in terms of distillation, where we like to promote that grain forward flavor. Again, we source everything locally, and we're proud of the grains that we get and the farmers that we work with around here, and really want to promote that. So the less we dilute that, the better you get. So we have that one there. Couple of the, I guess, popular ones I'll point out. We have our Solera. So this one, we are very, very low on our Solera bourbon, but we've got the Solera Old George, which is our rye base, and our Soleras are very popular.
They're one of my favorites.
Yeah, they're great. I mean, it's 6 years in total aging, where you get 4 years in the new white oak, 1 year in the French oak, 1 year in the cognac, and just I think it's like 12 years is the oldest rye whiskey we've got in those barrels right now. So it's a way to expedite that aging process in a shortened amount of time, and a way to introduce a lot of flavor really quickly. What else? I'll talk about, I know you've got this one too, this Maple Old George here.
Geez.
This one is great. So
good.
it is 9 years aged in total, which is something we don't really highlight, but the fact that it's 9 years is pretty wild. So it's, again, 4 years in the new white oak, 5 years in the barrel that had previously barrel-aged maple syrup. So again, with our stuff, we don't add any additional flavorings. We don't add any additional maple syrup. It's just whatever remnants were left in the barrel and just a little bit of sloshing around here and there to really, introduce that flavor. It just changes the viscosity a little bit in there, but it's more of that like natural maple earthy flavor that you get right on the finish, but still very much a whiskey.
So good.
Yeah, it's not like you're drinking maple syrup with a touch of bourbon or a touch of, whiskey flavor in there. It's a very whiskey forward with a little light hint of maple, just to kind of change the end finishing note on there. It's a great one. Super good.
By far one of our favorite bottles.
I have to top up on for my home bar. I'll mention, and I keep mentioning ryes, and that's just because I'm a rye fan, and we do great ryes.
Amazing rice.
Yeah. This double barrel, I think, is my favorite standard go-to, and you ask a lot of the people around here, this double barrel is everyone's favorite. We always kind of, whenever we get people into the tasting rooms, we always kind of like to throw this one in there because the flavor is fantastic on it. It's really, again, it's the 4 years in the new white oak, and it's 18 years. That'd be something. 18 months in the French oak, but just that little bit of vanilla introduction in there from the French oak barrel, along with those really rich, deep caramel notes from the white oak. Super, super good.
Yeah.
It is a classic. It's one of our favorites around here. I think if you ask anyone, half of them will probably say the double barrel. So.
And I brought this bottle to Easter with me this year.
Oh, did it go over well?
It ended up missing, and I'm like, where'd this go? And my cousin had it.
Of course. Well, funny how that goes
Such a good
missing.
barrel.
Yeah, it's a great one. Really excited about this one here. So bringing it back to a bourbon here, got our Amberana. So it's 4 years in the new white oak, and we say it's about 6 months in the Amberana barrel. I will say we tested it in about 4 different stages. We did it after 1 week, after 2 weeks, after a month, and then after 6 months. It's crazy the amount of flavor those Amberana barrels introduce in there. I mean, even just at 6 months for the amount of that cinnamon baking spice flavor you get, it's pretty wild. But even after 1 week in the barrel, very minimal difference between the 6-month. Those barrels are potent. You would have thought we would have dumped a bottle of cinnamon in there. It's really nice. And when you've got the sweeter base, like the bourbon in there, kind of gets those rich, doughy notes in there on top of the cinnamon. It's like, when I tasted it for the first time, I was like, this is like Cinnamon Toast Crunch, but like in alcohol form. It's so good. It's got like cinnamon rolls, like it's sweet, it's cinnamon. Definitely not a traditional bourbon by any means. So if you're a traditional bourbon fan, this may not be you, but for anyone who's, again, looking to get introduced into whiskey or willing to try, was looking for an Amberana, because I know they're up and coming on the scene, this is killer. Super, super good. I am, again, and I'm a rye fan, but this bourbon in particular, man, that it's really nice. Yeah.
So good.
Yep, it's a good one. So, I mean, I could talk all day about all of our spirits and how good all of them are, but, oh, you know what? I will talk about one more, sorry. I keep saying I'm gonna be done. I will talk about this American single malt. So, this is one of our 2 malted barley products that we have. This one currently is 7.5 years. However, probably by the time this video comes out, this one will be pulled off the shelves to make room for our 12-year. And the difference between this 7.5 year and 12-year is night and day. So typically what I tell people whenever I'm tasting with this one is that it's got a really clean finish, and it does. It's very clean, super easy to drink. It's got that kind of sweet malty flavor in there, but it's not overpowering, and it's still 100 proof. It doesn't drink like 100 proof. This 12-year has so much flavor. Like those extra years in the barrel, you get way more of that sweet oak flavor. It really amps it up, and you get those sweet malty notes in there, and it just finishes. It's super good. I am very, very excited about it.
Now I'm excited.
Yeah,
I was excited before, and I just realized what we've been talking about is going to be a single malt.
Yes, yeah. It'll be a little different than this bottle here. It'll have a little silver cap on there and a sticker that notes that it's 12 years, and very limited supply of this one. I think we've got 200-ish bottles of it. So it's it's far and few in between, but I think we're expecting it to just fly off the shelves. It'll be gone soon. So I'm really excited about it.
I'm excited.
Yeah, we'll have it in our tasting rooms starting in May. So if you're looking to stop by our tasting rooms and get some, it's a really good one. I'm very, very, very excited.
And we'll
about
definitely
it.
be there for the release date.
Yeah, great. Yeah, it's another way to show, it's not. We didn't start with malts when we started making whiskey. We started with bourbon in the Old George. And the fact that we have a 12-year ready to go just shows, we've been making whiskeys probably now for 15 years. So been doing this for a while now, just a little while. And we like to, show off our heritage, that it sat in that rick house. It sat in there for a little while before we got that rick house recently, but it's been in our hands the entire time. And that's when we first started playing around with, malts and single malts and barley and all these different types of things. And yeah, I'm excited about it. I'm super proud of it. It's a great one.
Yeah, this is a great story. It's a story I didn't know. I knew of Grand Travers when I became of age.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I didn't realize what the catalog was. I thought it was like 3 to 4 things. Then when I came up here and met you, I'm like, whoa.
Yeah.
How you've been what?
Well, and it's funny because what you see out in stores, and if you go to grocery stores, liquor stores, obviously it's a very pared down version of what we've got. But really, the magic in any distillery that you go to is when you go into the tasting room and you have all of these little one-off items, the limited edition, the fun stuff that the distillers get to play around with. That's really where those magical products come from. So
many amazing things coming out.
Yeah. Yeah, Michigan. There are so many great craft distilleries in Michigan, and it's, if we're gonna have a distillery anywhere, I'm proud of my dad for building this distillery from basically just a whim and wanting to do something different in his second act.
some of the best things come from just, let's do this on a whim.
Yeah, exactly. You know, he just thought it'd be a really fun idea to be able to make spirits, and here we are now. You know, it's grown into something that even he didn't think it was going to be.
Yeah.
He had no idea. I mean, back in 2005, you know, the craft distillery scene was almost non-existent. It was very, the laws were not in our favor. We couldn't have tasting rooms like this. It was, you know, manufacturing only. It's crazy how much, you know, things have changed, and how much, you know, the more distilleries that pop up and the more help that we get in, you know, craft distillers associations, the more legislation we can push through to help us, which is always great. And there's always work to be done, and there's definitely anyone who works in a distillery knows there is still work to be done, but you know, we're making it happen.
And the thing we've learned doing this is all these, I mean, we did this to showcase the Michigan distilleries, but what we didn't realize is how interconnected everyone is.
Yeah, it really is a community. I mean, and there's a ton of craft distilleries here, but in reality, there's not that many of us. No. You know, when you've got, I think there's probably like maybe 40 in Michigan. I could be wrong about that. It could be in the 50s now, to be honest. But it's not like there's thousands of us out there. You know, we're especially in northern Michigan, we keep cropping up, and we keep, you know, learning about each other, and you know, the more that we, you know, talk with each other, the more that we stay connected, and the more that we all learn and grow, and it's better for everyone that way, you know. Create a better product, and everyone enjoys it more. Creates more tourism up here, and boy, that is our number one thing that we need is tourism. So the more distilleries that we get, and it really helps out with the wineries and the breweries too. We've got a lot of alcohol up here, that's for sure. Yeah. A lot of good alcohol too.
So good.
Yeah. So yeah, it's a fun business to be in. Super exciting. I mean, there's more stuff coming down the pike for us in terms of whiskeys, maybe some other products as well.
Cherries.
Yeah, yeah, the cherries. I know. I'd love to get those out in distribution. That's our next step. Got a lot to do around here. But yeah, we're excited with the direction that, you know, we've started in, and that we're taking, and really trying to promote that small craft distillation and moving forward with that. And it's not easy in these days and ages where, you know, these larger distilleries out of state make it very easy for anyone to open up a distillery. And, you know, if you're not educated on how craft distilleries work, or, you know, sourcing versus distilling in-house, you don't understand fully why there's, you know, price differences, or if you're sourcing locally, and, you know, everything that's going on right now in the world, it's hard to keep track of it all. So we do appreciate people who come in here and learn about us, and, you know, fully understand that, you know, we do keep it as local as possible, as small as possible. We keep it, I mean, our products, a lot of them are pure Michigan designated. You know, it all comes from in-state, which is great. You know, we like to keep it a small craft distillery, and keep it, you know, well, we know what we can handle, and we know how to put out a good product, and that's really all that matters for us.
Good product.
Yes.
Amazing product.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. I mean, so this is our tasting room. Got some great stuff here. Can do tastings. We've got, you know, tasting rooms downtown Traverse City, Frankenmuth as well, where you can do some cocktails there. If you're ever done in Frankenmuth, they've got a social district in the whole town now, so you can grab a cocktail to go and go shopping. No one will be doing that this summer at all. No. That'll be, we've got that, and we've got our Leland tasting room as well. And TBD on another location that will probably be opening this summer, but don't want to give too much away yet. So
got to keep a few secrets.
Got to keep a couple secrets here and there. Yeah.
Well, this has been great. I mean, we are so happy it's an amazing story, and we're happy we were able to share it.
Yeah, I'm happy you guys were able to come in here and do this. This is awesome. We love talking about our story. You know, we love talking about ourselves. Who doesn't, though? Yeah. So thank you again for coming in here and showcasing us. Yeah.
We can't wait to see what the future holds for both of us.
Yeah, exactly.
It's going to be an amazing ride.
Yep, it'll be fun.
So from us here at Grand Traverse and Pure Michigan Pour, happy pours.